record on this computer. Okay, thank you. So welcome everyone, including those who have introduced themselves to this emotional intelligence session for intelligent professionals. So remember, I've said it previously that you can have intelligence, academic intelligence. Some people are not academically intelligent. I wasn't academically intelligent and I've had to struggle to read. I've had to struggle to learn. So I do struggle to learn, but I make sure that I do learn all the same. But it's a struggle for me. Some people are born with natural academic intelligence. They're really gifted academically, so they can, do all these exams without even having to read or learn or anything like that. But for people like me, it's a real chore. It's a real struggle. However, emotional intelligence is something that everyone needs to aspire to have, to gain, to develop themselves, to mature into. Our emotional intelligence, our emotions have an impact on not only our success or drive in life, our emotions also affect others, both positively or negatively. Our emotions affect ourselves. Our emotions tend to determine the outcome of our life's journey. And in many cases, our emotions may also impact upon others around us. As parents, our emotions affect our children. As children, our emotions can affect our parents. In the workplace, our emotions may affect our colleagues. So emotional intelligence is something that we all need to aspire to develop in ourselves, to enable us to be more resilient and more successful at this tough journey called life, because life is tough. Regardless of how much money you have in your bank account, life is tough. Whether you have plenty or a little money, life is still tough. Celebrities, kings, princes, they still have problems. They may not have financial worries, but they still have emotional challenges rather to deal with. And so it's important that we recognize that emotional intelligence is needed for this journey called life if we're going to successfully navigate the journey, successfully navigate the tests and the trials of this journey. So what we'll be looking at, we'll be looking at what intelligence is, what the opposite of emotional intelligence is. We'll be looking at why we need emotional intelligence. We'll be looking at leadership competencies. What are the signs of an emotionally intelligent leader or human? And then we'll take a look at how we can develop our emotional intelligence. As I said, these slides aren't many. There aren't that many slides. So I'll be stopping and starting the workshop, and we can afford to take 45 minutes for lunch. We'll also have a 15-minute tea break this morning at around 11 o'clock. And then we'll have another 15-minute tea break at, say, 1 o'clock as well. But we'll also take 45 minutes for lunch. from 12 o'clock to 12:45 or something like that, just so that we just chill out and we can ask ourselves questions during those tea breaks, or we can get up and stretch our legs. We can do whatever we want to. So what is emotional intelligence in a nutshell? First of all, emotional intelligence is self-awareness. What is self-awareness? Can anyone point out what self-awareness means to you in the chat window, please? What is self-awareness? Can anyone define that in the chat window? Self-awareness? Or if we'd like to unmute ourselves and ask, and respond to that question, what self-awareness is. What does that mean to you? Self-awareness. I'll just give us a few minutes to actually just type answers or unmute ourselves and just say what we think self-awareness is. Yet being conscious of one's own character. Would we like to expand on that, please? Yeah, would we like to? Yeah, okay, so I've got a good answer there. Consciousness of one's personal traits, but I like this answer from Ms. Sokoyemi here. Self-awareness is the ability to focus on yourself and how your actions, thoughts, or emotions don't align with your internal standards. So if you've set internal standards for yourself, you've said that I won't do this, I won't do that. This is my line in the sand. Being self-aware helps you to maintain that line in the sand. I won't gossip, for example. That is a line in the sand. That is a standard that I've set myself. I won't gossip about somebody else. I won't badmouth somebody else. Being self-aware enables me to reflect on that line in the sand frequently to make sure that I don't cross that line in the sand. So you'll never, ever, ever hear me say something negative about another person. And people that know me know that if they come and tell me something negative about somebody else, I would ask them the question, have you talked to them about this? Have you told them the way you're feeling about them? Or would you like me to go and tell them? Because if you wouldn't like me to go and tell them, then there's no need for you to gossip about them to me. So self-awareness is the ability to focus on yourself and how your actions, thoughts, or emotions do or don't align with your internal standards. And may I add to that, how your actions, thoughts, or emotions affect others. And somebody has said here, it's also about taking responsibility for one's actions knowingly or unknowingly performed. So important, taking responsibility rather than blaming others. That is indeed self-awareness. Being aware of how our emotions affect ourselves and the way we conduct ourselves. Also being aware of how our actions performed impact upon others and taking responsibility for those actions. Ability to understand oneself. Yes, so we've said ability to understand oneself and being self-conscious. Being self-conscious And also understanding oneself is critical when it comes to emotional intelligence. But what is also more critical is understanding oneself and trying to work towards improving oneself in those areas of weaknesses. So understanding one's weaknesses is important. Also, understanding one's strength is important. However, now being able to work on those weaknesses rather than simply saying, that is the way that I am. That's just me. So self-awareness is important when we talk about emotional intelligence. When we talk about self-control, what is self-control to us? So we're self-aware. We now understand what self-awareness is. Self-awareness is being conscious of one's personal traits or self-consciousness. It's also the ability to focus on yourself and how your actions, thoughts, or emotions do or don't align with your standards. You've set standards for yourself. So it's about regularly examining yourself to see if you've actually crossed that line in the stand, whether you've done anything to breach those standards. What is self-control, please? Self-control? We can add that to the chat window. Self-control. Self-control, what is that? Yes, the ability to control how we act at all times. The ability to know when we're about to overstep or cross that line in the sand that we've drawn ourselves. That ability to know when, okay, I've said that I'm not going to gossip about anyone. That ability to then recognize that I'm about to gossip here. So I'm going to stop. I'm not going to do this. So self-awareness is about being aware of our weaknesses, and then self-control is about recognizing when our weaknesses are about to cause us to do something that is contrary to our standards that we've set ourselves. Self-control. Helena said ability to control our emotions and not allowing our emotions to influence our actions or behavior. I love all of these answers. Ability to control our emotions. And Mr. Kweyemia said, it's the war between being impulsive and doing what's right or beneficial. What's right or beneficial to self or to others. That is what self-control is about. Keep check on ourselves, recognizing self-weaknesses and watching out for when those weaknesses are about to cause us to do something wrong to ourselves or to others. So self-awareness, in a nutshell, being aware of our weaknesses and strengths. Self-control is about ensuring that those weaknesses don't cause us to act negatively towards ourselves as well as towards others. Can anyone tell me how, or share with us how we might actually cause our weaknesses to affect ourselves negatively? You know, let's say that I've got a weakness. How do you think I might allow those weaknesses to affect me negatively? Because we often do this. I mean, we often do this, especially after we've been through challenging periods or tests or trials. We often do something towards ourselves now. Towards ourselves. What do you think we sometimes do to ourselves, or often do to ourselves, negatively as a result of previous bad experiences that we need to stop? Yes, thank you. If there's said, we sometimes blame ourselves, or we don't forgive ourselves, or we stop believing in ourselves. We lose our confidence. And that is a weakness, not a strength. Losing our confidence, blaming ourselves, not forgiving ourselves, or no longer regarding ourselves, or dwelling in that trial, even when the trial is over. Isiaka, I'm taking your comment on board now, saying we're unable to move on. And yes, this is the answer that I was looking for. Self-criticism. We lose our self-regard. So a lack of self-control is not only harmful to others, sometimes it can be harmful to us. So for those who logged on early, I mentioned that in 2010, one of my previous employers, they did an emotional intelligence check, assessment on all the leadership team, the entire leadership team. And in 18 out of 20 leadership competencies, which we'll discuss today, I was told that I was an enhanced leader in those 18 out of 20. And then in the remainder 2, I was an effective leader. Now, one of the 2 remainders was actually in self-regard, that I wasn't enhanced when it comes to self-regard, that I don't regard myself. And I had a discussion with someone this week, letting go of ourselves, or we just can't be bothered anymore after we've been through all the tests or challenges. That is a lack of self-control. But I had a conversation with somebody this week, very well-spoken, very qualified, competent professional who may or may not be on this workshop today. But this person was saying, that they felt the need to just be humble at interviews. And I'm like, what's being humble? You know, what do you mean being humble? You can't be humble at interviews because you're competing against others, other applicants for that job. So you go in there, you don't boast, but you simply say what you can do confidently. Confidently. To give yourself a chance. You can't have a humble CV and expect to get a job other than a job that maybe requires humility. You know? So self-control, we can use it to cause harm to both others and ourselves. So emotional intelligence requires us to maintain self-control in all our actions, in our thoughts, in our words, where we're not criticizing ourselves or others, where when we're providing feedback, even if that person has done something wrong, you're providing constructive feedback rather than destructive feedback. Whether it's towards our children, family, friends, or in the workplace. When I got married, I said that I would only talk to my spouse the way that I would talk to my boss in the office. So that I talk to him as if he were paying my salary. Most of us wouldn't talk to our bosses in the office negatively because we wouldn't want to be out of work. So it's the same self-control that we demonstrate towards our workplace leaders or managers that we should be demonstrating and showing towards everyone else that we encounter. Treat everyone else as if they're paying your salary. Respect everyone else, talk to everyone else as if they're paying your salary, even if they don't deserve that respect. Because guess what? The minute we start responding, you and I, the minute we start responding to everyone that treats us negatively in kind, talking to them the same way that they've spoken to us, that minute we become the same as them. The minute we start using our tongue loosely to condemn anyone, rather than try to build them up. So let's say a child hasn't done well at school. The aim should be to build them up, to get them to that point where they're performing well at school, rather than to use our tongues to break them down even further and cause their performance to worsen at school. Same as when we're giving feedback to someone in the workplace, a team member in the workplace. Self-control requires us to respect that person, regardless of their rank, even if it's the lowest paid member of your team. Self-control, emotional intelligence requires you to speak to them respectfully and to provide constructive feedback. Even if the feedback is negative, you're not performing adequately. What can we do to get you there? Even if the feedback is we're needing to lay you off, we're restructuring, or your performance hasn't met your targets, or you haven't met your objectives, that feedback should be constructive. The news that we're sharing is negative, but the way we actually share that news should be constructive. Self-control, the way we talk to ourselves every single morning when we wake up, should be constructive. The way you talk to your spouse, to your children, the way you talk to yourself when you look yourself in the mirror, regardless of what you look like, should be constructive. Self-control is to manage your emotions to the point where they're not negatively impacting upon self or others. So emotional intelligence, we've talked about what self-awareness is. We've talked about what self-control is relationship management. Everyone here, including me, is a relationship manager. Because from the minute one is born into this world, one is managing relationships with one's parents. We may or may not have siblings. Then we start nursery. We have playmates in the nursery. Then we move on to school, the secondary school, college, uni in some cases, move into the workplace. We're all lifetime relationship managers. And we need emotional intelligence. You and I need emotional intelligence to manage each and every one of our relationships. Even if that relationship is as brief as half an hour. Let's say you get on a bus, and so there's a bus driver. You've encountered that bus driver, so you need to build a relationship, even if it's a fleeting relationship, by simply saying good morning to that bus driver. That is a relationship. You've met the bus driver, and he or she has transported you to your destination over 30 minutes or so. So that bus driver has had your life in their hands for 30 minutes. So we say good morning to the bus driver, rather than simply saying, oh, they're just a bus driver. And thank you when we're getting off. I'm not sure whether, for those of us based in the UK, I mean, so you get on the bus in the front or the middle. I'm not sure if any of us have noticed that if you say thank you to the bus driver when you're getting on and getting off, the people behind you, getting on behind you or getting off behind you, they all say thank you as well. Emotional intelligence, relationship management. Even though you don't know that bus driver's name, emotionally intelligent humans will still recognize that for the next half hour, 20 minutes, or whatever time of this journey that I'm going to make, this person has my life in their hands. Same as when you go into work and you meet security guards in reception. Relationship. Build a relationship with that person, because you need to recognize that, heavens forbid that there's any trouble, that security guard would be first in the firing line. They're there literally guarding the building, protecting you all day long whilst you work in your cushy office. So say good morning. Good morning as you're walking past that security guard. Even if no one else does it, an emotionally intelligent professional would say, this is a human being, a fellow human being, standing there all day, protecting me, protecting my life. Cleaners come and clean your office. Develop a relationship with them. Say good morning. If you walk past them, say good morning. They're coming out of the loo, having cleaned the loo that you're going to use, say hello. That is emotional intelligence. We're required to develop relationships, even if it's just hello that you say to that security guard, to that cleaner. It's having respect for everyone around you, regardless of your personal situation, and having respect for yourself as well, regardless of your title. If you're a security guard yourself, you're a cleaner, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're a security guard or cleaner. It doesn't matter. Nobody was born with a title, and nobody will remember your title once you're gone. Once you and I, because I'm going as well, but once you and I have gone, once we're dead, nobody's going to remember the titles that we bore. That person was a CISO. That person was a leader. That person was a this. Nobody's going to remember that. I often repeat the story of a 50th birthday party I went to in 2014, where the preacher at that party came and he said something that I've never forgotten. He said that when we die, people will remember us for the problems we solved and the problems we caused. So nobody's going to remember us for our titles or our jobs or how much money we earned, our salaries or our cars or the clothes we wore, or on the number of houses we have. If we have multiple houses, I don't, but if we have multiple houses, nobody's going to remember that. They're going to remember the impact that you had on them, either positively or negatively. And that's why self-control and self-awareness and relationship management is vital. Is vital. Vital, not only in our professional setting, but also in our home-based setting, in our personal lives. So what is the opposite of emotional intelligence? Now let's just move this out of the way. False humility. So that is one of the antonyms, false humility, where we're simply trying to claim we're humble, but we're just acting out. False humility, that is not emotionally intelligent leadership. Where we keep going around saying how humble we are, but we don't have any regard for anyone who is not in a position to help us. Where we're happy to suck up to leadership, but if it's a junior member of the team, behind closed doors, we're literally tearing them down and making sure that they recognize that we are higher than you or we are higher than them. That is not emotional intelligence. Blind faith as well is not emotional intelligence. What is blind faith? Where we're simply saying, well, I am a leader because I've been given the title. Emotional intelligence isn't based on a title. Sometimes, if you dare to pipe up a conversation with your office cleaner or security guard, you may find that they have pearls of wisdom that you haven't even considered as a leader or a consultant. So emotionally intelligent leadership isn't about having blind faith in your competencies, or as a professional saying, I should be able to get a job because I've got a history of being a leader, an IT manager, InfoSec manager, CISO, whatever. Now, if we're not continually learning, we can't retain that right to be called a leader. If we're not continually reading, updating our knowledge. And when I say being a leader, I'm not talking about a titled leader. I'm talking about a parent, a team leader, in whatever regard, whatever circumstances, whatever the status of our title, we can't develop ourselves or be referred to as an emotionally intelligent human if we're simply basing our title or status on blind faith. Oh, I'm a leader, I'm a parent because I've got children. Having children, giving birth to children doesn't make one a parent. It's how we nurture, how we develop and grow those children that makes us a parent. And before we can actually develop and grow our children, if we're not reading and learning and developing ourselves, we can't develop others, not to talk of our children. So blind faith is not emotionally intelligent leadership. Same as if we're leading a team. When people ask me why I study and why I keep doing exams and things like that, I say that one of the things that I don't ever want to be caught doing is to say that XYZ terminated my career, or XYZ destroyed my career, or because of my age, I can't get a job, or because of my race, I can't get a job. I've read a lot of LinkedIn articles from people of different races saying, oh, well, since I turned 40, I haven't, I've struggled to get a job. And I simply say that the point is that if you're not constantly reading and developing yourself, then you'll be competing against university graduates who would ask for a lower salary and who are unemployed and who would also have more up-to-date knowledge. So emotional intelligent leadership doesn't require blind faith. Oh, I'll get this job because I've prayed and prayed and prayed. Or I should get that job because I'm 40 and not one of those young students. What do they know? Well, they've got more up-to-date knowledge than the knowledge that you and I acquired 20 years ago. An emotionally intelligent leader is not a procedure manual addict who does everything by the book, who has to see a code of conduct before they know how to behave. What is the company's procedure manual or code of conduct? If you require a code of conduct to tell you how to behave in the workplace, then you now need to question the level of your emotional intelligence. If you require a code of conduct to tell you that you shouldn't gossip, or you shouldn't steal the company's assets, or you shouldn't do this, or you shouldn't do that, then that means that you need to question. You and I need to question our actual emotional intelligence. Because good conduct and emotional intelligence comes from within, not from a procedure manual or a code of conduct. Emotional intelligent leadership doesn't have an us versus them mentality. Emotionally intelligent leaders, parents, professionals work in partnership with their colleagues, children, friends. They view those relationships as a partnership, and they work together to build one another up. Parents who have a challenging child, for example, or a child that is exhibiting challenging behavior, different to the others, we then don't turn around and say, well, all of us on this side of the family, me and my partner and the rest of the children, we're all okay, in quotes. So what's wrong with this one child? Same as a team leader. If one member of your team is not performing, then that isn't on them alone. It's also on you as the leader to work with them to fix it, to fix the issues that are causing the underperformance. And when I say the issues, in some cases, it may be that you're required to talk to them. Maybe they're experiencing family issues. It's not your responsibility as a leader or a colleague to fix their family issues, but it's your responsibility to find out what is causing their underperformance. Same way as our children, same way as our friends. You have a friend who hasn't wronged you in years, or in a day, or whatever, or in, months. Rather than sit there and get angry over why they haven't wronged you, pick up the phone and ring them. We need relationships. We need to build up relationships rather than tear down relationships, including with those who don't know as much as us, including with those who don't have the title that we hold. We treat people as if the leadership boot were on the other side. If you're a leader, you treat people as if, you treat your team members as if they were your leaders, as if you would like to be treated emotionally. Now I'm talking about. Treat them as you would like to be treated if they were your leader, if they were your boss. Emotional intelligent leadership, or an emotionally intelligent professional or human, doesn't follow herd mentality. They don't follow the crowd. An emotional intelligent leadership doesn't go it alone always, but they're prepared to go it alone sometimes, especially when the crowd are heading in the wrong direction. Herd mentality, when the herd is about to jump off a cliff, as an emotionally intelligent person, you don't follow the crowd. If the crowd is about to do wrong, whether it's amongst your siblings, amongst your children, amongst your family, friends, you don't follow the crowd. If your friends, family are sitting there talking negatively about somebody, you don't follow the crowd. That's what we refer to as herd mentality. We all need relationships, but we don't have to follow the crowd or the herd when it comes to negative traits. Emotional intelligent leadership doesn't exhibit any of the isms. And I'll explain that And I know that some people who are not based in the West, including some people who are based in the West, actually, you know, in the UK, US, they may actually disagree with this on, you know, or with this point. But when it comes to racism, sexism, tribalism, discrimination against people who are not of the same sexual orientation as ourselves, that is not emotional intelligence. We often discriminate against people of other religions. That is not emotional intelligence. Because somebody is of a different faith to yours, because somebody has chosen a different sexual orientation to yours, you treat them differently. That is not emotional intelligent living or leadership. Everybody created, everybody born on this planet Earth, everybody walking on this planet Earth today is a human being first and foremost. So as an emotionally intelligent professional, it's not your place to judge your fellow human being on any grounds. Because you wouldn't like to be discriminated against by anyone, you shouldn't discriminate against anybody else as well. So all those isms, racism, sexism, religion-based bias, all of those are not signs of an emotionally intelligent professional or human being. Some people will defend their biases based on religious preachings or scriptures. However, when it comes to living in this world, you just have to make sure that you remain true to your own religion when it comes to your standards. You can set your standards based on your religion. You can choose to marry people based on your own religion, you know, only marry someone from your religion and all of that. However, you cannot mistreat a fellow human being in the workplace or as a friend because they've got a separate or different religion to yours or different sexual orientation to yours. That is not emotionally intelligent leadership. Judging other people's lifestyles or judging other people's tribes, saying, oh, everybody from that town is wicked, or everybody from that race is racist. That is not emotional intelligence. We take each human being as a single soul person. I hate it when they say that people from my background, people that originate from Nigeria, that we're all fraudsters. So why would I then go and start saying that all white people are racist or something like that? That is not emotional intelligence, because each individual is unique. Each individual is a unique human being with their separate doses of emotional intelligence. So demonstrating all those isms is not emotional intelligent leadership or living. Saying to one's child that you are not clever is not emotional intelligent parenthood or parenting. An emotionally intelligent parent would recognize that each child is unique, and that child that is not academically bright may be best suited in a career where they're doing something with their hands. Or they may, like me, come good in their latter years. Because as I said at the beginning of this session, which was unrecorded, so I'm saying it for the purpose of this video, which I'll put on YouTube after the session. I'll say it again, that in my secondary school years in Nigeria, I used to score 80% and above in English subjects. So English language, English literature, and oral English. But in the meantime, in every other subject, I used to score single figures, 3%, 5%, 9%. And yet, I've now come good. Now that I'm studying, and I've been studying something that I enjoy for the last 20 years, I've now come good. So if you're a parent here today, please stop saying to your children or to yourself, please, to yourself as well, I'm not good at reading, I'm not good at studying, I don't know book, I don't know this, I don't know that. Please stop saying that to yourself. And if anyone has said that to you in the past, when you were growing up, you need to either book a half an hour session with me on the Ladder Back Down's website, mentoring, and I'll talk to you. And I'll also redo the confidence skills workshop that I did last year, but I haven't had the opportunity to do it this year due to a bereavement, but I'll make sure that I put that on, for if you need that renewed dose of confidence. But don't let anything or anyone take away your confidence. Emotional, intelligent living demands that we ourselves don't try to take away anyone's self-confidence or our own self-confidence. We don't say things. Self-control demands that we don't say things to people, to others, including to our children, our friends, our colleagues, that will cause them to lose their confidence. And the isms are a no-no. Discrimination, regardless of your faith, regardless of your race, discrimination is a no-no. You can't say all Muslims are this, or all Christians are that, or all gay people are this, or all, English people or white people are this. You can't say that. That is not emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligent leadership demands that we're the opposite of emotional intelligent leadership is to be slow to listen and quick to speak. Whereby before somebody we're conversing with has made a point, we're already calculating what we're going to say to counter that point, to argue against that point. That is not emotional intelligent leadership. Where we're slow to listen and quick to provide a reply, rather than being quick to listen and slow to speak. Do we wait for that person to actually finish their point? And then do we take a time to understand, a moment to understand what they're trying to say before we speak? Or are we already calculating in our head, this is what I'm going to say for this person. I'm going to finish them today. Slow to listen and quick to speak. If we're slow to listen and quick to speak, that means that we are not emotionally intelligent leaders, because we cannot build an effective discussion against a point that has been raised if we haven't actually understood the point, or if we haven't listened to the point. So emotional intelligent leadership demands that we're actually quick to listen. We take that time to listen to what that person has said. We take the time to reflect over that point that has been raised. And then in some cases, we may find that actually that we're saying the same thing. But if we're both debating and arguing over ourselves, we can't even hear what somebody's saying, what the other party's saying. But if you take time to listen, sometimes you actually find, oh, that we've been saying the same thing all along. And you reach a consensus. When we go for interviews, there's no harm in saying, sorry, could you repeat that question? But if we simply just answer every question based on what we think we've heard, rather than what exactly that interviewer has said, we could miss out. Because we've answered something that is so irrelevant to the question that was asked of us. So when discussing, one of the things that we could do is to repeat what we think that person has said to us. And this isn't just at interviews. When we're discussing with a colleague or with a manager or with a team member, there's nothing wrong in saying, oh, can I just say to you what I think you just said or asked before I reply? And you repeat what you think you've heard. And if they confirm that, then you can now respond. Then you can now speak. Rather than already start to build up your defense or your argument or your response without having fully comprehended what that other party has said. Why do we need emotional intelligence? Well, an emotionally intelligent human makes a better citizen. Anywhere in the world, if you're emotionally intelligent, you can make an impact. A son, a daughter, a partner, a parent, employer, or employee. A politician. Leaders of nations. If we had emotionally intelligent driven leaders in power globally, there would be less wars, there would be less poverty in nations, because there is enough money to go around the world globally. But mismanagement, ego, pride, greed, those are the sorts of traits that we see in some leaders that ends up meaning that many citizens go without. So emotionally intelligent human beings make better citizens. Children, sons, daughters, partners, parents, employers or employees. And there are intangible values by being raised by or being developed by an emotionally intelligent leader or being with an emotionally intelligent partner. Less stress, less strife. Less stress, less strife. And when making recruitment decisions, Many companies will do this competency-based test. They don't call it an emotional intelligence test, but they do this competency-based thing where you go online and then you answer some questions just to see what your strengths and weaknesses are. They don't actually ask you direct questions, what are your strengths and weaknesses, but they ask these questions, and then there's a system and an algorithm in the background that actually calculates, your strengths and your weaknesses and your emotional intelligence. And as I said earlier, I'd rather hire an emotionally intelligent professional to work with than someone who's got all the skills and qualifications and certifications in the world on their CV, but they're unable to treat themselves and others with the respect that each human being deserves to be treated with. I'll ask this question and I'll put this, and I'd like to see some answers in the chat window. Why do we think prisoners deserve respect? Or do prisoners deserve respect? Any responses in the chat window, please? Do prisoners deserve respect? And if so, why do we think they do deserve that respect? And if not, why not? Do prisoners deserve respect? And thank you. Yes, thanks. So everyone's actually answered well. We've got two answers here, because they are human beings too. First and foremost, they are human beings too. And if they said everyone deserves respect regardless, because we are all human and we make mistakes. We are prone to mistakes. Yes, they are human beings first and then prisoners. Absolutely correct. Everyone deserves respect. That doesn't mean that they shouldn't be punished according to the laws of the land. So I'm not saying that nobody deserves to be punished if they've committed a crime. However, even in prisons, prison officers should be treating those prisoners with respect, because they are human beings first. And we are all prone to mistakes. As Ife said here, we're all prone to mistakes. Regardless of how principled you might be. I heard the case about 6 years ago of someone who left their workplace computer unlocked, and then somebody did something on their computer. And they ended up in the front of a judge because of that, a court case. Now, they made a mistake by leaving their computer unlocked, and they went to prison for it, but do they deserve respect or not? So everyone, regardless of who we are, regardless of how, in quotes, perfect we might think we are, regardless of how emotionally intelligent we might think we are, or not, we still deserve respect. Regardless of how academically intelligent that child is of yours, they still deserve respect as a human being. I remember when I was in Nigeria, as I said, struggling with my education, and my parents used to say then, oh, that we're going to send you to the school of nursing. And, if you don't buckle up with your exams. And I remember one of my brothers, they used to say, oh, we're going to send you to be a mechanic. But today, now you come to think of it, nurses are sought after all around the world. And car mechanics and all those people that do trades with their hands, like plumbers, electricians, they're sought they're sought and they're being sought after all over the world because there are not enough of them. So plumbers, mechanics, tailors, they deserve respect. Respect is not based on one's job title. As emotionally intelligent humans, we don't respect people solely because of their job title. We respect people because they're a human being. So great answers there, thank you. What are the outcomes of emotional intelligence? When we develop our emotional intelligence, what outcomes can we expect? Well, peace of mind, first of all. Some mentioned during the introduction that they're here because, things that have gone on in the past, and somebody mentioned that, yeah, they like, that they believe emotional intelligence is needed so that we can move on. Yeah, without emotional intelligence, it's hard to move on. It's hard to forgive ourselves for things that have happened in our past. But when we do, we experience peace of mind. Because it's tough. It's so hard carrying a burden around, an emotional burden around in you. Having carried that burden around in you for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, 60 years, 70 years. It's tough. And life is tough enough as it is without carrying that burden around. Sometimes we tend to say, we're all right, I'm at peace because I'm, a person of faith of this religion or that religion. But without emotional intelligence, without developing our character and our competencies, we may simply be masking our pain with religion. It's so easy to mark pain with religion, but it is unhealthy. It's extremely unhealthy. Extremely unhealthy to mask your pain of what's happened in your past with religion, where you go to a religious counselor and they say to you, it is well, or all is well with you. Read the scriptures and you'll find peace. No, I'm sorry. I am a woman of great faith. However, reading the scriptures is not enough to develop your emotional intelligence. It's enough to develop your spiritual maturity, but not enough to develop your emotional intelligence. And I'd like to again implore to any parent here or any aspiring parent, especially if you're from the African continent or from Nigeria, where I originate from, I'll say that. So, especially if you're from Nigeria, very often, or when I was growing up at least, my parents were very particular about my education maturity. And later onwards, my spiritual maturity. But what we've got to recognize as human beings is that we're not just spiritual beings and we weren't created just to work and earn a lot of money. We're also emotional human beings. And so for parents of young children here, you've got an opportunity from today to start also focusing on your children's emotional well-being. It's so important. Let's stop hammering our children because they're not academically bright. Let's work on their emotions. If they've been through trauma, such as a bereavement, stop saying it is well or all is well. No, you need to get them counseling. You need to counsel them yourselves. Stop saying, be a man. You're a boy now, or you're a man. Stop saying that. Even if you're an adult, please, and you've experienced trauma, stop blaming yourself for still feeling the way that you feel today. Because if you haven't sought counseling, if you haven't spoken to anybody, or you've spoken to people who have just brushed you off, then why wouldn't you still be feeling traumatized? So please, I'll implore you, seek counsel, or you can, as I said originally, book a mentoring call on the Ladder Back Down's website, www.ladderbackdown.com, just to have that, and it's all free. Every service that we offer through the Ladder Back Down is free of charge. But please stop masking emotional trauma with spiritual or religious activities. Please, trauma is real. Workplace trauma is real as well. So please, no more masking. Get the help that you need to make sure you heal and that you continue to develop your emotional intelligence. And as I said, if you're a parent, you've got the opportunity to start raising emotionally intelligent children. The outcome is peace of mind. Emotionally intelligent humans tend to be more joyful. Joyful. And when I say joyful now, I mean really joyful, as in they're not laughing outside with people, and in the bedroom, they're in tears all the time over pain or trauma. Contentment. Once we become emotionally mature and we continue to develop that maturity, we suddenly recognize that this life, that it's just a brief journey. It's just a brief journey. Even if you live to 120 years, you get to an age or stage where Christmas Day, 1 minute you're waking up and they're saying Merry Christmas, then it feels like the next minute they're saying happy birthday, and then they're saying Merry Christmas again. And then contentment dictates that you understand that this life may be tough, but it will come to an end one day. And all that will remain is the memories of the problems that I caused and the problems I solved. That's all. Then you'd be contented. Contented. Emotional intelligence brings contentment. And when I say contentment, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't aspire for things, but it means that we recognize that whether we have one house or one bedroom that we're renting, we're contented with our lot. Contentment. Emotional intelligence breeds better relationships, because when you're self-aware, you exercise self-control as well. You build or develop better relationships with everyone around you, except those who don't want to have a good relationship with you. And if you encounter people that don't want to have a good relationship with you, it's okay to sever those relationships. It is okay to sever relationships that are not of a mutual benefit to you and to the other party. If you're in a workplace and everybody is treating you badly, then you leave. Find somewhere else where you'll be treated with mutual respect, with the same respect that you show to those in the workplace. Respect should be mutual. And I made up my mind a few years ago that I would never, ever again work in a place whereby I'm doing everything possible to secure the organization from security threats, and yet I'm not expected to stand up for myself when I'm being attacked personally. So I'm always looking towards working with organizations where that respect and that loyalty is mutual. Same as in a marriage or a partnership. Respect and regard has to be mutual. Same as in a friendship relationship. Respect and regard has to be mutual. And if it's not mutual, then you sever the relationship. Because life is very brief, regardless of how long we live. Regardless of how long we live, life is short. So we only thrive on beneficial, mutually respectful relationships. Another outcome of emotional intelligence is resilience. As you mature in emotional intelligence, you become more resilient to the tests and trials of life. You understand that nobody's life is perfect. Nobody's life is perfect. There's nobody whose life is perfect, regardless of how rich or poor that they are. Resilience, which we'll talk about later on. What are the competencies of, or some of the competencies of, an emotionally intelligent professional? First one is resilience. What is resilience? So let's actually start chatting again. What is resilience, please? And you can unmute yourself if you want to actually contribute verbally. What is resilience, please? Resilience?
Yeah, hi. I would say resilience is probably the willpower to soldier through something that probably is a challenge, and then the willpower to carry you through and see through. So in project.
I think we've lost you there a second, but the willpower to, sorry, go on.
Say from start to inception, from to the willpower to carry through.
Yeah, the willpower to see things through, yeah, and to go through tests and trials and emerge from those tests and trials. Thank you for that. And then we've got some comments here. The ability to bounce back. Someone's responded long suffering, and I'll comment on that in a moment. And Helen's responded, yes, holding on to your beliefs regardless of any forces. And I'll first of all comment on the ability to bounce back. Yes, that is resilience. Withstanding a storm is resilience. To recover back from challenges, that is resilience. Yes, definitely. The ability to bounce back. But when we talk about long suffering, I'd like to talk about that for a moment, because and I'll talk about the holding on to your belief regardless of any forces. Long suffering, that's not necessarily resilience, because without being able to bounce back, simply long suffering simply could be viewed as saying, well, that I have the ability to, sit there and endure anything that comes my way. So long suffering is not necessarily a thing of resilience, unless you're saying that long suffering with the ability to recover. You understand? So resilience isn't only long suffering where you're simply just enduring. It's about being able to recover. Yeah, enduring a storm, but being able to bounce back and recover. And then also holding on to your belief, regardless of any forces. Yeah, I like that ability to stay through challenges and come back stronger. But holding on to your belief, regardless of any forces, in some cases, you may actually need to change your beliefs. You may actually need to shift your beliefs. So I think it's important that we recognize that resilience isn't necessarily to hold on to your belief, regardless of any forces. Sometimes you may need to shift track and do something else, try something else. I've heard that said, in the past, okay, well, hold on to your faith and just, do everything to go into this industry, to get into this industry, when that industry may not be best suited for your skills. So sometimes you may need to reconsider rather than simply hold on to that sole belief that I have to go into cybersecurity and nothing else, when your skills might be best suited to becoming a business analyst or a project manager or an operations manager. So it's not about holding on regardless of any forces. Rather, it's about being able to bounce back, come back stronger from any suffering or any put down or any setback. What we will do is that we will take 45 minutes lunch now, and then we'll return. And in the meantime, happy to continue to answer questions or things like that. And once we return, we'll continue with the workshop. So we've talked about what resilience is. And as an emotionally intelligent leader, we need to be able to reach tough decisions, sometimes including laying team members off. And when reaching those decisions as an emotionally intelligent professional or leader, we can't afford to show favoritism. It has to be on a fair basis. You can't simply say, well, because these people are from my tribe, or because I know their parents, or I know their children, or whatever, that I'm going to retain them at the expense of someone who may be more competent, with less confidence, but more competent at least, than that person that you know. So emotionally intelligent leaders don't show favoritism. Then we're also not scared to lead with compassion and empathy. Very often I hear that comment that it's not okay to show compassion. Whereas I disagree with that. As a leader, it's important that we show compassion. We treat people as if, or in the way rather that we would want to be treated if they were our leaders, if the leadership boot were on the other foot. So it is okay to show empathy and compassion, whether you're a man or a woman. It is okay to show compassion to your colleagues. It is okay to show compassion to your children. It is okay to show compassion to your parents. Don't say that if I show compassion, then they won't respect me. In 2019, I started working in a bank at the time, and this lady, the quietest member of the team, she was actually the only female member of the team. She was very quiet, just extremely quiet. You wouldn't even know that she was in on days that she did come into work. And then I started talking to her. And then one day she just said that she didn't know that from observing me, until she started observing me, she didn't recognize that you could actually be kind as a female leader. She said that she thought that to stamp my authority on people, in quotes, these were her words, that to stamp my authority on people, that I needed to actually show them that I was the boss, especially because I was from an ethnic minority background. And I had to explain to her that no, that it is okay to show compassion. It is okay to show kindness. You don't change your values as a human being, or your standards, as Mr. Kwayemi put it at the beginning of this workshop. You don't show your, you don't change your standards when you walk into the office. Leave your compassion or your nature at the door, that I'm going into work and this is my title, so I've got to act according to my title. I've got to show them who the boss is. It is okay to show compassion to your fellow humans, because you're not leading titles, you're leading human beings. Integrity in the workplace, integrity in relationships, integrity between you and your partner, me and my partner, integrity between me and my children. What is your price for integrity? Because they always say everyone has a price. I know my price, but do you know your price? My price is a good 6 to 7 hours of sleep at night. You can't pay me to compromise my integrity. You can't pay me any money to compromise my integrity. You can't pay me to do something wrong, something that conflicts with my values as a human being. You can't pay me to do that. So do you know your price as an emotionally intelligent human? Are you willing to pay the price for your price? Because I often say that not everyone can withstand my level of integrity. You know, if you ask me to do something wrong, I'll say no in the workplace. And that has been a costly standard to maintain in many organizations in the past. However, that is still my price. If you're asking me to do something, will it allow me to have 6 to 7 hours uninterrupted sleep at night? Or will I be tossing and turning in bed after I've done that thing? Do you know your price? Another question I ask people when they ask me to do something wrong is, would I be able to look my children in the eye at night and say, this is what I did at work today? Or this is what I did in my personal life? So name and know your price as an emotionally intelligent human being. This isn't just for leadership. As an emotionally intelligent human being, name and know your price. Well, you first need to know your price. You first need to know your line in the sand, and then you name it so that everybody is clear that if I go to that person to ask them to do something wrong, they're not going to do it. Integrity. They're not going to compromise their values. They're not going to cross that red line. How often should an emotionally intelligent professional self-evaluate themselves? How frequently should an emotionally intelligent professional evaluate themselves? I'd say as often as possible. When you're looking in the mirror, if you're doing your makeup, or if you're brushing your teeth or shaving in front of a mirror, can you look yourself in the eye? So yes, Ife said every day. That's correct. No harm in evaluating yourself every day rather than evaluating others and judging others. Can you look yourself in the eye every single day or night and say, yes, I did well yesterday. I did no harm to anyone or to myself yesterday. Look yourself in the eye in a mirror. Can you proudly say to your friends, family, to your children, to your team members, this is what I did today in the office, to my fellow human being or to the company? Self-evaluation and awareness, that is so important. Be aware of your weaknesses and make sure that those don't cause you to compromise. What people will say about you. Don't let it be said about you that this person lacked integrity, that they followed the herd one time too often. Social responsibility, taking care of others. Most people will say, I don't have time to take care of others. I'm still trying to work my own life out. But everyone has 24 hours in the day. Even if it's 5 minutes spent encouraging someone, that's enough. Social responsibility. Recognizing that you don't have the responsibility to only motivate yourself or to only receive. You've got a responsibility towards your fellow human being, especially those that you have a relationship with. Picking up the phone and asking how someone is, that is a voluntary act that we can all engage in. Problem solving. Do we work in silo alone or are we collaborative? Some problems are there for us to do or solve alone, but others, we need people. And if we haven't built up a relationship with those people, in some instances, they may be unwilling to actually assist. So emotionally intelligent humans solve problems. And in many instances, they do that with others. Dispute resolution and negotiation. How do we handle disputes? Do we pour fuel on the dispute, on the issue that we're trying to resolve? Do we set the scene alight where we simply argue, refuse to listen to anything that is being said to us? Or do we try and calm things by pouring water, trying to reach a mutually beneficial agreement? Or do we indeed cause disputes? Do we go around causing disputes? Oh, if I'm not, if I'm not tough, people will walk all over me. So I'd rather cause offense or cause disputes than have somebody cause me an offense. Emotionally intelligent humans tend to negotiate their way through life. They calm disputes, they calm storms rather than cause storms. When they hear somebody else saying, this person offended me, or this person did this to me, rather than fool the situation, they try and calm things. And if we can't calm things, we say nothing at all. But we don't add fuel to the situation. Ever so often, you'll have someone come in and say, oh, did you see what my boss did? Or did you see what your boss did to me? XYZ, XYZ. Don't fall into the trap of adding your negative views about that person to that particular dispute. Are you quick to raise excuses for people, to make excuses for them? Or maybe they're just having a bad day. That's why they snapped at me. Maybe there's a situation in their home that I don't know about. Or are you quick to simply start an argument? What that person did to me, they snapped at me, so I'm going to now just go and have my go at them. Impulse control. Quick to listen or speak. We've talked about that previously. Are we quick to listen or are we quick to speak without hearing the other person out? It's so important that we listen more than speak. We listen to people rather than speak, to help us to control our impulses, manage our impulses, self-control. Are we adaptable? Are we adaptable where we simply say, or are we rigid where we simply say, no, I'm not going to allow this person to mistreat me, so this is the way I'll deal with them. Every single day, I won't give them any room to make mistakes with me. As a team member, even, as a partner, I won't allow this person's weaknesses to affect me. So I'm not even going to give them that room to make this mistake. If they dare make a mistake, I will show them. Are we adaptable or are we rigid? Or do we deal with each situation as a separate situation or incident? Do we apply the same leadership style to everybody in our teams if we're managers? Do we apply the same leadership style to everybody, regardless of their strengths and skills and experience and weaknesses? Do we apply the same leadership style? And I'm not talking about the same respect now, because we respect everybody, regardless of their experience or skills. However, what I'm asking is, when we talk about leadership in every situation, do we apply the same leadership or do we adapt our leadership style to the situation at hand? So somebody's been persistently coming late. Do we simply apply the company policy? Okay, after 3 days of coming late, we take them through a disciplinary procedure? Or do we try and find out the reason for their lateness, first of all? How do we receive negative feedback, not only as a leader, but also as a parent, for example, or a spouse? We heard from the gentleman earlier who said that he tends to withdraw and he just accepts the feedback. But how do we generally receive negative feedback? Do we actually want to hear negative feedback? Including from our children, do we simply say to the children, look, I'm the parent here. You can't tell me my weaknesses. You can't point out anything to me. I don't want to hear it. We should be willing to hear constructive negative feedback, because it's to our benefit. If we're receiving that feedback, that is enabling us to improve in our conduct, improve our character. So it's essential that we learn to accept feedback, including negative feedback. If the person providing the feedback is not being constructive, then we need to make that known, that, look, you're not being constructive. Might there be a better way in which you can provide this feedback? But be prepared to receive that feedback, to hear feedback, positive or negative, because none of us is perfect. What age does an emotionally intelligent human stop learning? Or professional? What age do we stop learning? Including if we're not a professional in the workplace. But what age do we stop learning? As parents, as workplace professionals, as entrepreneurs? What age should we stop learning? If someone could put that in the chat window, that would be appreciated. You know, what age should we really stop learning? Answers in the chat window, thank you. Yes, exactly, never. So we never stop learning. We don't stop learning until we literally leave this planet Earth. Because learning doesn't have to be from books. We can learn from other people's characters, other people's strength, and other people's weaknesses, actually. You can learn from a leader's weakness where you determine that I won't lead that way. I won't treat anybody that way if or when I get the opportunity to lead. So we can learn from other people, from their strengths, from their weaknesses. We can learn from books. We can learn from videos. We can learn from talking in one-to-one coaching sessions. But we should never, ever stop learning. Never, ever stop learning. So thank you to those who have answered that question. So emotionally intelligent leadership includes retaining our integrity, which we've talked about. Who are we inspiring in our day-to-day life? Because every single human being has someone else that is looking up to them. You may not know it, but there is someone else that is looking up to you. Maybe a sibling, maybe a parent who's old now and they're witnessing you and the way that you're leading, the way you're living your life, and they're remaining inspired by that. Maybe a colleague, a fellow student. But being emotionally intelligent requires us to inspire others as well as inspire ourselves to keep going when the going gets tough. Emotionally intelligent humans are centered and grounded, practical. Practical. Don't waste time with baseless arguments. They base their discussions and arguments on facts, on realities, and they take action rather than simply saying, I'm going to do this course this year. And then 2 years down the road, they're still saying, I'm going to do this course this year. I want to change careers, but I'm not prepared to do anything about it. I'm just going to rely on my faith. Emotionally intelligent leaders and humans are participative, including in the home. Getting children around the table to reach decisions for the family good, or in the workplace, getting team members around the table. Okay, here's what I think we should do. Any suggestions on improvement? Or any differing opinions, any other opinions? Whilst recognizing that you are the leader of the team, but still enabling others within the team to participate in decisions to raise them as leaders as well. We've talked about resilience. So change management. Leaders who are emotionally intelligent are able to inspire others to change. Leading change programs, including in the family or the workplace, and bringing everyone together in agreement, in consensus. We've talked about empathy, we've talked about self-awareness, we've talked about flexibility, being adaptable, willing to change one's mind if evidence is presented that your idea or my idea isn't the best idea. Being flexible, being willing to accept that your decision or my decision isn't the best decision, including in the home. Emotionally intelligent leaders are flexible. Professionals, we're flexible, able to adapt to changing markets. And that comes from being a continuous and lifetime learner. If we're lifetime learners, when there's a downturn in one market, we're able to pivot because we've continued to learn. So being flexible. And problem solvers we've talked about. Please remember again, will only be remembered for the problems we caused and the problems we solved. What are the people-oriented traits from an emotionally intelligent leader? And we've talked about most of these: impulse control, adaptability, being flexible, social awareness, being aware of your impact upon others, upon your environment. Walking into a meeting and recognizing or reading the room. Relationship management, self-control, having a positive outlook. Having a positive outlook towards life regardless of the tests and storms. And that doesn't mean that we remain always happy and singing and dancing, but having a positive outlook that, you know what, that I'm going to do everything I can to make things good. And then I believe that all will be good. I'm going to do everything that I can to get that job or to make my family good, my children turn out right. And then I'll retain a positive outlook that they will turn out right, or that I will get that job once I've done everything that I can. Empathy and compassion, that is one of the people-oriented traits of an emotionally intelligent human and professional and leader. Having empathy and compassion for those children you have. Recognizing that they're not just, you know, emotional beings, or that they're not just spiritual beings, that they're also emotional beings, whether they're male or female. They have their emotions that need to be safeguarded by you, the parents. Empathy and compassion, influence. And one thing that I'd like to say to each and every one of us is that you each are influential. You may not feel that way, but influence isn't based on the salary you earn. Influence isn't based on the car you drive. It's not based on the house you live in. It's based on your impact upon humanity. Your impact on your friends, the influence you have on your friends, for good or for bad. Influence. Happiness. Emotional intelligence provides for a happy person, because that is linked to the positive outlook, where they continue to thrive in hope. They may not be happy about their current situation, but because they're taking action to change that current situation, that helps them to maintain a degree of happiness. And we've talked about resilience, being tough-minded, being able to recover from setbacks, being able to get up each time you fall. And I had this conversation yesterday with a lady, and I was explaining that all of us, I believe all of us, when we were learning to walk, when we were young, would have fallen down at least once. Some of us may have fallen down when, since we, or when we grew up. Some of us may have fallen over when we grew up. But the one thing with resilient people rather, is that they fall, but they don't stay on the floor. Just like you and I didn't stay on the floor when we fell physically, resilient people, when facing trials and setbacks and tests, don't stay on the ground. When tripped up, a resilient, emotionally intelligent person does not stay on the ground, regardless of who tripped them up, regardless of how heavy the fall, regardless of the injuries sustained, regardless of the emotional turmoil or the emotional challenge, the emotional pain. Emotionally intelligent people who are resilient, who have developed their resilience, simply get up. It may take longer than another person to recover from that setback, to get up off the floor, but they still get back up and continue along their way. Because a person that falls down physically never stays on the ground. So why should you and I stay on the ground emotionally when we encounter a setback or a problem? We can't afford to stay on the ground. When we're traveling, we're driving somewhere and we're traveling and we encounter roadblocks or traffic lights or speed bumps, we don't stay at a traffic light, or we stay at a roadblock, or we stop at a speed bump and refuse to go over. No, we simply find another way, but we keep traveling. We keep on going. We keep going in the direction of travel. And we sure end up reaching our destination. So resilience, it's so important that as emotionally intelligent humans, that we actually develop our resilience. And the only way to develop that is to keep going when we're experiencing or when we're going through tests and challenges. We don't simply just stop. We may want to refuel. We may want to rest for a while, but we don't stop. When we fall physically, sometimes we may sit on the floor for a while to get our bearings back. Sometimes we may simply just jump up and just keep going in the direction of where we were walking to. However, we keep going. And that is what resilience is. You keep going. People-oriented traits. As an emotionally intelligent person, we're able to manage conflicts and not fuel those conflicts. Rather, we try to calm conflicts. And we have positive and good communication skills. We don't waste time talking ourselves or others down. Rather, we invest our words and our writings in building ourselves and others up. So it's a waste of time to talk about a fellow human being, to talk down a fellow human being, regardless of what that person has done. You go talk to them, try to manage the dispute, and if they don't respond, forget about them, sever the relationship. But in going to talk to others about them, in going to gossip, that's just a waste of your time. And remember this saying, time is not money, time is life. Time is not money, time is life. Because if you lose money, you can find it or recover it. But if you lose time, if you waste your time gossiping or doing something else that is unconstructive with time, you can't recover that time. You can never relive that time, can you? And that's why I don't like people wasting my time at all. If I tell you that I'm coming for a meeting at 10 o'clock, I will leave home half an hour earlier than I should, so that I get there for 9:30. If I get there late, then hopefully I'll be there by that 10 o'clock on the dot. But if I know that, okay, I'm stuck on a train or something and I'm not going to get there for 10 o'clock, I will ring you so that you know to be doing something else with the time that I'm going to be delayed by. I don't like wasting other people's time because I simply don't like my time being wasted, because my time is not money. I don't calculate my time by the amount of money that I earn. I calculate my time by how long I may have to live left on this planet Earth. So communication skills, being able to communicate and speak words or write words that are constructive rather than destructive, rather than that tear people down. An emotionally intelligent human or professional improves their communication skills on a day-to-day basis, being constructive rather than destructive with their words. Process-oriented traits of an emotionally intelligent leader: assertiveness. Being assertive is not about being overconfident or about being rude. Assertiveness is being able to constructively stand up for yourself and to stand up for others, to stand up for your company, to stand up for your family, to stand up for your children, to stand up for whatever environment or relationship you find yourself in, constructively, not rudely. Then another trait of emotionally intelligent humans is the trait of independence. So whilst we're able to, and it's always a good thing to develop relationships, to work with others, to be participative, you also need to be prepared to be independent, to think for yourself. Think for yourself. You may need to run your thoughts by others in that relationship hub. If you're in a relationship with your partner, yeah, you can have a thought, but then discuss it with the partner, please. But you still need to be able to independently reach decisions. As a leader and as a human, especially if you don't want to be following the herd all the time when there's wrongdoing taking place. Then stress tolerance, which is also the same as resilience, being able to withstand those shocks, being able to withstand stress, and to not just withstand that stress, but to make sure that whether it's counseling, whether it's coaching, whether it's just talking to someone, that you're able to also expend that stress. So you're not just absorbing it, you're not just tolerating it without doing something to get rid of the physical and emotional impact of that stress upon your life. And you're not taking your stresses out on your fellow human beings. An emotionally intelligent leader won't say, because I'm going through this stress, I'm going to make sure that other members of the team or other members of the family, that they know that I'm going through this stress, they're going to share the burden with me. We don't share our burdens with others. In the workplace, if you're stressed, you don't share that burden of stress with others. You're facing a home situation or relation situation in the home. You don't then take that out on others in the workplace or others in the family. You're facing an issue. You know, if I'm facing an issue with my husband, I can't afford to take that out on the children. No, we sort out the issue causing us stress. And then optimism, we've talked about that, where we retain a positive outlook. towards life. Self-actualization, again, self-reflection. Self-reflection, where we're reflecting all the time. We're reflecting on our actions, on our responsibilities, and then we're actually acting responsibly. Developing relationships where realistic. These are traits of emotionally intelligent leaders. In the workplace, we build relationships. We build relationships and we don't play off leaders against one another. We understand politics of the workplace. That is so important. Most organizations, regardless of the size, have what we call office politics. And it's important that we recognize that. And as long as we're not hurting another human being, as long as we're not engaging in wrongdoing as well, as long as we're not hurting another human being, and that's so important, where you're a leader of a team or you're an individual and you recognize that your boss doesn't like someone else in the team. It's not your place to then start disliking that other person to get in your boss's good books. That's not the sort of politics that I'm saying. Don't try and disrupt someone else's life or cause someone else harm to get on the good side of your boss. But recognize the politics that takes place and don't add to it. Don't add to it negatively. One of my sons will say, oh, that I don't suck up to anybody or anything like that. And I say that at the end of the day, I don't mind sucking up to anybody, as long as it's not to the detriment of anybody else in the team. I won't suck up to you as my boss and then you're telling me, oh, we need to try and get rid of that person. How can we do that? And then I start sabotaging the other person's role because I don't want to be dismissed. I won't engage in that sort of politics. So we recognize, though, that we need to maintain those interpersonal relationships within the workplace. We need to be aware of our organizational environment. For those of us who, are looking to go into different workplaces or different environments, you're looking to transition into a new career, you need to be aware of the industry that all the regulations and things like that, and the threats. If you're looking to move in cyber, you be aware of the threats of that specific organization and the industry. Be aware of the structure of the organization. Be aware of the weaknesses and strengths of the organization. Read the news. As an emotionally intelligent person, you need to be able to research on companies before you go there rather than afterwards. Before you join an organization, research on that company. Make sure you'd be comfortable working there. Make sure that the company doesn't engage in continuous wrongdoing where the regulator's calling them up all the time. And we've talked about stress tolerance. How do we develop emotional intelligence? Daily self-reflection, which we've talked about. No harm in spending some time when you're in front of your mirror thinking, how did I do today? Did I do well? Did I cause anybody any harm? Might I have spoken sharply to someone today that I need to apologize to? Daily self-reflection. Did I do something that my children wouldn't be proud of me for if I were to tell them that this is what I did at work today? Daily self-reflection, courses, workshops, 360-degree feedback. That is where, if you lead teams or even with your children, you sit them down and say, okay, I'd like you to tell me some things that you want me to stop doing and some things that you'd like me to start doing. And let's negotiate on them. Take your kids out for a meal individually, not together, because each of those children's needs or team members' needs will be different, will be unique. Are there things that you'd like me to stop doing and things that you'd like me to start doing? And if you're talking to a team member and you recognize that, okay, that maybe they might feel a bit scared to tell you, you can start the list of yourself. Oh, okay, you don't want to tell me things that I should start doing. Why don't I start it off? Do I interrupt you often when you're talking? Or do I constantly jump out of my office as soon as there's an incident without letting you actually, without giving you the opportunity to resolve the incident first? Start the list off yourself. Recognizing that you're not perfect. I'm not perfect. I'm definitely not perfect. As a human being, none of us are perfect. So allow for that 360-degree feedback. Don't say the children are your children, so they're not old enough that it will be rude of them to tell you your weaknesses. How do you improve if you're not receiving that feedback from both peers and those leaders above you, as well as those that you lead or your colleagues around you? Friends, family, ask them, what do you think I might need to improve on? So you don't need to say, what are my weaknesses? What are the things that you'd like me to stop doing? What are the things that you think I might need to improve on? And when they've given that feedback, don't then take it out on them. Don't ask for that feedback if you know that you might be offended by what you hear. Developing emotional intelligence, when we even hear positive feedback about ourselves, we can still look for ways to enhance those positive feedbacks that we've received. See how we can use that positive feedback to add value to someone else's life. If someone says you're a good communicator, see how you can use that to add value to someone else's life. Mentor somebody else to become a good communicator. Let's listen to feedback from relations, as I've said there. So not just our team members, also our relations, our parents, our children, siblings. And mirror, mirror on the wall. Remember, I keep mentioning, we should be looking ourselves in the eye in our mirror. Every evening, just look yourself in the mirror and say, okay, I know I've got this weakness. Did I do well today? Did I snap at someone today? Did I get angry and scream or shout or raise my voice at someone today? Including the children. And if so, apologize. There's nothing wrong in apologizing to someone who's not in a position to snap at you back. So if I'm a team leader and I've snapped at someone in the workplace, in a member of the team, the most junior member of the team, I have no right to look at myself in the mirror that evening and say, oh yeah, that I do remember I snapped at that person, but because they're a junior member of the team, I don't need to apologize. Because they're a human being. I snapped at my daughter today because I was upset with something that happened at work today. But I don't need to apologize because it's my daughter. It's just my daughter. So I'll make it up to her by maybe taking her to McDonald's tonight or something. No, we apologize. Emotional, intelligent humans are quick to say sorry, to apologize for wrongdoing, regardless of who that human being is. They don't just apologize to leaders or to people who they can benefit from or who can do them well, who can actually give them something in return. Emotionally intelligent humans also say thank you and please to people who don't have their title or who are their children. No harm in saying, please, can you get this for me? To a child or to our children. No harm in saying, please and thank you. Before we go to the last slide, any questions or comments, please? Questions, comments, anything that we'd like to clarify or even add to this workshop today? We can all unmute ourselves now. And if there's no questions that we wouldn't like to see recorded, what I'll do is that I'll actually just close the workshop, first of all, and say thank you to everyone for attending the workshop today. And we wish you each great success in everything that you're trying to achieve as a human being, whether as a parent or as a student or a leader or a colleague in the workplace. Whatever you're trying to achieve, you can achieve it easier with a dose of emotional intelligence. And please don't forget to follow The Ladder Back Down on LinkedIn for updates of our future workshops, or on YouTube. We've got a YouTube channel called The Ladder Back Down, and you can connect with me as an individual on LinkedIn. And then don't forget our WhatsApp group as well.